Good morning. I'm Senator Feingold, and I am very pleased to be here with John McCain and Paul Ryan to announce our reintroduction of the line-item veto bill. Obviously, I've worked with John on many issues, best known on campaign finance reform, but John's always been my leader on this issue of the line-item veto. When I came to the United States Senate, I already, even as a Democrat, had said I believe the President should have some form of a line-item veto. I don't support every form of it, but I believe it's a very important reform. And then John McCain's a guy who got the bill through the Congress, got it all the way to the President, and got it to the United States Supreme Court. And unfortunately, the court struck down that version of it. But he has been the leader on the Congress on this issue, and obviously it's an enormous help to us that he wants to take such an important role in trying to get this done. Now, Paul Ryan and I have known each other for a long time. We both grew up in Janesville, Wisconsin. And we both see fiscal matters very similarly when it comes to things like earmarks, although we don't agree on everything. And one of the real pleasures is that as we talked about this, we were able to come up in the last Congress with an agreement on an approach to this issue that we could propose on a bipartisan basis and hope that we could actually get enacted and that would actually pass constitutional muster. Now, we're both from Janesville, Wisconsin. Our fathers worked in the same building and we're friends. So, John, the only thing we ask is that this be known as the Janesville line-item veto if it becomes the law of the land. This bill is about the need to stop wasteful earmarks, especially in this time of economic crisis. And if Congress won't restrain itself, the President should be able to try. Now, we're hearing all the arguments. Oh, this doesn't involve so much money. Where I'm from, the amount of money that's involved in these many earmarks, which is illustrated right here, is real money. The other thing I'm hearing more and more, frankly, especially from my Democratic colleagues, is, you know, these earmarks are the reason we are sent here. This is what we're supposed to do. Well, this crowd works pretty hard, and we don't do them. And we don't think that's the core of the job of a senator or a congressman. In fact, I don't know what you guys are hearing, but the amount of passion I'm hearing in support of earmarks is something I would think would be reserved for getting Osama bin Laden or the genocide in Darfur. And there's almost a teary-eyed defense, which is a further sign to me that there's something rotten here, that it's out of control, and that they're feeling the pressure. Now, I think we've made progress on this issue. The fact is, in the last Congress, we made sure that the earmarks had to be identified by people, so it's out in the open. And the fact is that under the stimulus bill, according to the definition that we use in this legislation, there were no earmarks. And so that is something I'd like to see done on the omnibus bill as well. This bill that we're proposing today allows the President to propose some earmarks to be rescinded and sent back to Congress to be voted on separately. Now, the critical thing is, on our legislation, they can't just put the bill that the President has proposed in committee. There is a requirement that it has to be voted on and within a set time frame. The Senate and the House can choose to fund the earmark package, or better yet, they can just rescind the funding as per the President's proposal. If either House votes against rescinding by a simple majority, the projects are funded. So the reason we think this will be constitutional is that Congress has to basically pass these cuts to the earmarks in both houses, and the President has to sign it. That gets at the problem that the Supreme Court had with the other bill. So you can argue that this is really an expedited rescission bill, but because the public understands this as a form of a line-item veto, we prefer to refer to it that way. If the bill were the law of the land, our President Obama, wouldn't have to choose between signing or vetoing this omnibus bill. He could clean it up. He could clean up these things, and we wouldn't be in the sort of Hobson's choice position of saying either or. That would be a great contribution to the process. Consideration of the omnibus and the upcoming focus on the budget being involved, this bill couldn't be timelier. I've heard John talking on the floor about the fact there's some 8,500 or 9,000 earmarks in this huge piece of legislation. And each page doesn't represent just one earmark. It often involves a bunch of earmarks. So that's truly incredible. One estimate I've seen suggests that this involves some $7 billion for these earmarks alone. Again, that's real money. So members of Congress like to talk the talk on earmarks and fiscal discipline. It's time to walk the walk. And we have a President whose press secretary said he'd like to take something like this for a test drive. We'd like to give him that opportunity. Senator McCain.
Thank you, Russ. And can I say what a pleasure it is to be with you again. Senator Feingold and I may have some philosophical disagreements about the role of government and perhaps on some issues such as Iraq. But I know of no one in the United States Senate that I would rather work with on issues of reform and having government responsible to the people. And Senator Feingold and Congressman Ryan, I think, represent what Wisconsin has represented for a long time to America, and that's good, transparent, honest government. And so it's a pleasure for me to be with the twins who were separated at birth in Janesville, Wisconsin. Again, I can't tell you what a pleasure it is for me over the years to have had the opportunity of working with Senator Feingold, who I consider one of the finest members of the United States Senate.
Before Paul talks, I just want to say what a pleasure it has been to work with Paul in developing this. He is extremely easy to work with. Communication is great, and of course he's a very key member of the House for a variety of reasons, in particular as relates to this, the ranking member of the House Budget Committee.
Thank you, Russ. You know, Russ and I, our families have been friends for 3 generations. We grew up in the same neighborhood. We're from the same hometown. We went to the same high school.
But not the same year.
But not the same year. Russ is much older than I am. But we have talked about this, just on the airplane back and forth from Wisconsin, about the need to clean this mess up. Look, neither party has cornered the market on virtue when it comes to spending. And just take a look at this. Look at this. We got 9,000 earmarks that the House passed last week, $7.7 billion. 4,000 of those earmarks are from Republicans. So it's not as if one party is doing this well and one party's not. Both parties have contributed to the mess we have. We believe that this bill will pass constitutional muster. We believe because this bill keeps the power in the hands of Congress, where we execute the power of the purse, this is a constitutional thing. So what does this achieve? Some critics will say, well, this won't achieve that much savings. $7.7 billion in a $410 billion bill. If you can't get the small waste right, how are you ever going to tackle the large fiscal challenges in this country? Our goal is to embarrass the pork out of Washington. And by giving the President and the Congress this tool, we can help bring sunshine to this murky process and embarrass pork barrel spending out of these packages. We think the President wants this. We just have to get through the forces here in Congress that like the status quo. And unfortunately, there are forces from both sides of the aisle that like this kind of status quo. Swine odor research might be important to somebody, but when we have a $1.8 trillion deficit this year, it's probably not the best use of taxpayer dollars. There are lists and lists and lists of items in this bill that if they actually stood up to a vote, if actually members of Congress had to vote on these things individually, they probably wouldn't stand the test of time. As Senator McCain mentioned, we have people in jail from Congress for engaging in the corrupt practice of earmarking. Not all earmarks are corrupt, of course, but when you have a system that's out of control, when you have members of Congress in jail because of influence peddling, selling earmarks, there's something wrong with this system. And so we believe this brings a tool of sunshine, a tool of accountability, and some just plain old common sense back to the way we spend taxpayer dollars. This should not be a Republican or a Democrat issue. This should be a good government issue. That's why it's just a real pleasure of mine to join with my friend from Janesville and our friend from Arizona to do this together. Thank you.